Hey, everybody, welcome to the show. And as ever, the show is not starting because we're ready, but because it's 3 o'clock, and in this case, 3:08. So thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. And Adam is still fumfering together some.
Look, I had one last joke. I called an audible at the line, Paul. You saw it. We came on the show here. I said, Paul, I got one joke that we should open the show with. And you go, yeah, sure, open the show with. And I go, hold on, let me export it. Like the last thing I exported, which was the it's uploading right now, Paul. It's gonna be a really funny joke because you see the idea is the audience would open with this.
Because you see, right. Well, let me talk about what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
It's Working Girl.
It is.
Harrison Ford's first romantic comedy. So this is
Yeah.
from 1988, and we've got William the Beast Bibbiani talking about. Does he still go by that? These are the things we'll find out when we get on here and chat about it. Does he do reviews as the Beast? Probably not. We'll find out.
No, he says on his show, people call me Bibbs, so I think he's back to Bibbs. I'm a Patreon subscriber of their channel because they put out 12 shows a day, as far as I can tell. They're very they work very hard over there. Oh, did we lose Paul? Well, that's okay, because this is my option to open the show the way I was who watches this show will recognize this reference. And just think about how funny this would be if the show opened and you didn't see me and Paul. The first thing you saw was this.
Are you ready for Fox DVD video?
I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
What? Tighten AE, everyone.
Bedazzled, everybody.
What exactly are we looking at here?
The future.
The future.
What are you staring at, Four Eyes?
How many hundreds of times has everyone seen
Here,
this?
now, Fox DVD video.
Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Unbeatable movies.
Welcome to Fight Club.
Is this how we get a
I'm not what you think.
Copyright
check mark
strike?
on our trade, whatever we're using trademark material?
Maybe. Maybe we should take it off.
There is something down.
I just want to get to the DVDs because remember how obnoxious DVDs were? Watch, they show the DVDs off,
Unbelievable features.
and they're all the ones you had to wait, for a loading
Full
screen.
3D cutting
Here we
edge
go.
menu.
And it takes this long to get into the Abyss menu.
This place. Director and actor coming.
All right.
Well, that's right. The menu would be half the fun.
Oh, yeah. And then the...
Well, here's a guess. Somebody said Bibbs is making Kieran Lager scented soap, and they had to run to their P.O. box to collect in time for the show. And Bibbs, who's waiting in the wings, if you don't know what Kieran Lager is, it's a beer that Harrison Ford would make commercials for. We used to do a lot of movie nonsense. I don't know how much we talk about it on the actual edited Ford Fiesta show, but here's a little taste of it. Then we'll bring you right in, Bibbs. Here we go.
Okay.
Kieran Lager biru, kudasai.
What are they? Soap right here.
Kudasai. Kieran Lager biru, kudasai. Nani? Moderno?
Mr. Beer. Kirin Lager Beer.
Let's bring him in, right?
Yeah, let's bring him in, and then we'll introduce him again in the proper show when we start recording.
Right. William Bibiani, everybody. There he
Hey,
Twice.
can I get an invisible beer too?
Disney.
Excuse me.
Oh, see, it's too much watching you do that, Bibbs. Now I got to run out of the sauna and get a beer.
Forgive my hearty beer belch. Hey, everybody. Good to be here. Good to see you again. It's a pleasure to be talking about the incredible filmography of Harrison, the guy Ford. I don't know if he has a nickname.
He was never in the Schmodown, as far as I know.
He might be the man.
Missed opportunity.
I
think that's probably correct. Bibbs, you ever make beer scented soap?
I don't think we've made beer scented soap. We have made like a sort of like a bourbon type soap before. More of a hard liquor kind of soap. So, but I don't think we've actually done beer. I think we've done coffee soap, we've done tea soap, but no, I don't think we've done beer yet.
Well, bourbon, that's got one of those, like people like put like leather scent and things like that. Bourbon has much more of a like a earthy thing that is often mixed with scents, I think, than like beer would be, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, beer is a wonderful, nice hoppy, aroma. A lot of people love the good smell of a good beer. So, I don't see why we couldn't try to approximate that, but I would have to go by our soap chef before I could make any definitive calls on that. So I'm not the one who does the majority of the soap making, so it's not my expertise. Yeah.
Do you feel very Fight Club every time you do? How often do you? Because I always say there's a rule in golf. How long can you play golf or bowling without quoting Caddyshack or The Big Lebowski? So when you're making soap, the Fight Club lines, or is this
it's gauche if you're actually in the soap making industry.
Is it?
But everyone else brings it up because it's the only soap making thing in media most people know about. We have a Patreon soap of the month club right now over at patreon.com/saltcatsoap, where for a certain amount every month we send you either one soap or two soaps every single month. But we've also started doing a podcast, and the first episode of that podcast is free if you want to listen to us talk about me and my partner M. Lapis de Silva, who is not only a genius with soap but also an acclaimed published author. We did a podcast in which we talked about Fight Club and its influence on people's perceptions of soap. Yeah. So if you want to listen to us talk about Fight Club in some detail, above and beyond the soap parts, you can hear us over there.
Yeah,
we say it here, and then there it is. All right. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's get talking about Working Girl. We're going to do a official introduction that if you haven't heard Bibbs on our show before, check out the More American Graffiti episode, because also if you want to get excited about seeing More American Graffiti, which you may have thought this is a sequel that doesn't seem necessary to a legendary film, we will get you excited. And so check that out. And
because it's better than American Graffiti.
I love that take.
See, love that.
It is.
Love that.
It's because it's factually accurate.
Because it's a hell of a lot more ambitious, that's for sure. And then to stick the
landing
is pretty impressive.
Yeah.
So he's back to talk about Working Girl. So we're going to do an official introduction. So if you remember, Bibbs, we're coming out of our recap of the plot and into the conversation part, which is the second half of our show. And then we'll just be off to the races. I've got facts and funnery here that we'll go over. And then when we're done, we'll circle back to the comments, see if anybody had anything interesting to say while we were gabbing. But Adam, you're juggling media over there. You all set?
Yep. How we let's dictate the show and enter the recorded portion of the show, which is also a reminder, Paul, to hit record on your QuickTime as well. Bibbs has already hit record on his, and we'll demarcate this with the opening of the show. It's the Ford Fiesta.
Well, that felt proper. All right. Okay, so we'll be coming out of our plot summary, and I love that clip, by the way, of him drinking the drinks. The whole wedding is. I mean, we'll get into it all. All right, here we are coming out of. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, that's Working Girl. And to talk about it, we have a returning guest. He's a film critic, co-host of multiple podcasts on the critically acclaimed network, and a brand new one we heard about. You can check out at patreon.com/saltcatsoap, where you can support his soap making business. Like, I'm a entrepreneur as well. I do movie location tours and all sorts of stuff. And you start your own business, it's a blast. So I'm glad he's doing it. And so anyway, the critically acclaimed network, you can also find this gentleman, and he's an old friend from the Movie Trivia Schmodown, William Bibbiani, everybody.
Growl, everybody. It's a pleasure to be back. It's a pleasure to be back on one of my favorite podcasts.
One of our favorite people to talk about movies with, much less Harrison Ford. Very exciting. Good to have you back.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, I wish I had had this idea first. It is such a fun idea. It's such a fun title. You guys are killing it. And again, I'm glad I can be here. I was especially glad I could be there to support More American Graffiti because I think that's a desperately underrated film. But I'm equally excited to be talking about Working Girl because I think Harrison Ford tends to get celebrated for his action movie roles, his thriller movie roles, even his drama, but he is rarely talked about as a funny man. And I think he is very, very funny in this movie. And I think this is actually one of the better movies about sort of the economic landscape and the working class and the sort of the workplace landscape of the 1980s. So I think I'm always up for talking about Working Girl. I love Working Girl.
Yeah, 1988 specifically was the year. The second film of that year after Frantic came out December 21st. And yeah, he's launching himself into the romantic comedy realm, and he did so in a huge way because this remains one of the most lauded romantic comedies of its era, and even by AFI. We'll get into the stats on that later.
Oh, really?
And and was a hit. So like, considering we're just coming off of Witness and Mosquito Coast, the super risk was Mosquito Coast and Frantic, not making a ton of money. It's like, will he return to his status as, the big moneymaker guy? Clearly he's on the verge of Last Crusade and will make a mega $1 million
that blows my mind.
movie again. But this earned $103 million worldwide. Now this was 63 million domestic, but don't forget, this is in an era when 1988 had only 6 films grossing over $100 million at the box office in the calendar
comedies
year.
to do that.
And I think it's worth noting that Harrison Ford was doing some more risky material at this point in his career. Mosquito Coast was a huge risk. I still think it's arguably his best movie, or at least his best performance. But I think if you're looking at it in terms of like Harrison Ford needs to sort of put his flag back in the sand as a box office draw. He was looking for something very affable. He came very, very close to starring in Big back when it was going to be directed by Steven Spielberg.
Wow.
And that fell through. And a whole bunch of people were almost in Big. Gary Busey was almost in Big. Sean Penn was almost in Big. Robert De Niro was cast as the Tom Hanks character in Big. And then there were scheduling conflicts, and then Tom Hanks took over. I think it worked out for the best. But when you look at his performance, when you look at Harrison Ford's performance in Working Girl, and Big came out the same year. When you look at Harrison Ford's performance in Working Girl, you see Harrison Ford is playing a big kid.
Yeah.
Like it's a very youthful, very innocent performance from him in a lot of ways. It touches up against some darkness, especially in like his first meeting with Melanie Griffith's character. I don't want to talk about the way that those scenes play out, but overall, he comes across as incredibly affable, incredibly likable. And even though, again, Mosquito Coast, Frantic weren't huge hits, this is Melanie Griffith's movie. She is third billed behind Harrison Ford, Sigourney Weaver, and then Melanie Griffith.
Yeah.
Her agent was not doing the job, man, because that's absurd. I get that Harrison Ford and Sigourney Weaver were big draws and they were probably making the movie, but still, that's ridiculous when you look at it today.
I'd like to tangent on that with facts I read online, so it must be true. But Mike Nichols, the director, went to bat for Griffith, saying that she was Tess. Like, this was a thing. And of course, Fox went, look, we've made a history of bad decisions about movies that star Harrison Ford. We'd like to continue to do that if we could. And just, but they said, okay, what if Harrison Ford's in it? What if Sigourney Weaver's in it? Oh, those are huge stars. Okay, you can have Melanie Griffith. So he had to make it happen with the big stars in order to secure her through the studio.
And it's a wonderfully cast movie, like top to bottom. I mean, you got Joan Cusack stealing every scene. Ricky Lake is in this thing, and of course she's wonderful for the one line she's got. But seriously, you got Olympia Dukakis in one scene. Incredible actor,
fresh off the Oscar.
Yeah, this is just top to bottom. Everyone in this movie is absolutely splendid, and I think it starts with Melanie Griffith, and I think this was definitely one of the star making turns for her, and she owns it. It's her movie.
She
just
really
from the beginning to
does.
end. Yeah.
Oh yeah, a very worthy Oscar nomination. We'll get into all the Oscars this got as well. And but the tagline you saw on the poster at the time was "For anyone who's ever won, for anyone who's ever lost, and for everyone who's still in there trying." There were a couple others I saw, but that's the one I remember specifically from the poster.
That's kind of nice.
Yeah. Which is interesting because the 80s had their era of like Vice Versa and Like Father, Like Son and Big, you mentioned, all would come out at the same time and have a similar plot. This came out a year after The Secret of My Success, but I think it was clear, despite the money that made, hot on the heels of Michael J. Fox being a big box office star, this was like the prestige version of that plot line where someone fakes being a boss.
Right. Well, actually, I think you can. I mean, that's an old storyline, pretending to be someone you're not. I think the '80s version of that, and I think it's a better double feature with Working Girl than The Secret of My Success, which is at best an okay movie, and is 9 to 5
of the time.
9 to 5 at the beginning of the '80s with Dolly Parton, Lily Tomlin, and Jane Fonda, and of course the incredibly evil Dabney Coleman. That is a story that's actually very similar to Working Girl in a lot of ways. The boss is out, the downtrodden women take over the office. They do everything right and they improve it, but will they get caught? 9 to 5, much like Working Girl, holds up really good. Like, have you guys seen 9 to 5 recently, by any chance?
Yes. I was in the stage show in 2015. Wow. So I saw
that's
it then,
amazing.
like 7 years. It's been 7 years, but that's the last
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Were you Dabney Coleman or were you?
He was.
Oh yeah.
It was the best.
Really? That's amazing.
It was the best.
It was fun.
I would kill to see that. I feel bad now, but regardless, I think that's where I think that's the dynamic this is coming from. But 9 to 5 is much more of a farce, and this is coming from Mike Nichols.
Yeah.
Mike Nichols has done a lot of funny movies, but Mike Nichols, with the possible exception of like The Birdcage, he doesn't tend to do very broad movies, and even The Birdcage is very rooted in very serious characters drama. The thing with Working Girl is you watch it now and you expect, okay, this is a romantic comedy. It's got Melanie Griffith and Joan Cusack and Sigourney Weaver and Harrison Ford, and people are pretending to be different people, and everyone's in love, and everyone's keeping secrets from everybody. And if you've never seen it before, you've got an idea in your head of how this is gonna be like When Harry Met Sally or You've Got Mail, kind of an arch movie, maybe something more in the vein of the 1930s screwball comedies, where class and like working class people hobnobbing with wealthier people, business people, and the like was much more common. But you watch Working Girl and you realize that if you just don't find it hilarious, and I think it's fair to say that it's not the funniest comedy ever, it actually works as a drama. And it's actually in many respects, it's incredibly upsetting as a drama, because you see from the beginning all of the microaggressions and aggressions that Melanie Griffith endures from people who are supposed to be her peers, from people who are definitely her bosses, people who seem to be her boss, and in a way that could become a great ally. She's very excited to be working for a woman who has made it in an industry where it is incredibly difficult for women to succeed, to break through that glass ceiling. And what she realizes, and the audience is just a little ahead of her, because we note that when Melanie Griffith tells Sigourney Weaver she's turning 30, and Sigourney Weaver says, "Oh yeah, I'm going to turn 30 in like a month. So, I'm younger than you." Sure you are, Sigourney. You're incredible, beautiful, looks very young, but she was at least 8 years older than Melanie Griffith at the time. That's the joke. We see that, Sigourney Weaver has broken through the glass ceiling, but she's pulling the ladder up after her so that no one else can come up. And we see just how alone and just how desperate that situation can feel when you have all of the talent, all of the qualifications, all of the moxie, all of the will, but you're not allowed to succeed. Yeah. And that's genuinely told. That's not told with any kind of farcical, over-the-top, comedic exaggeration. That part feels incredibly real. And as a result, the movie, it works as a romantic comedy, but it's just a good workplace drama.
Yeah, I think that's what separated from Secret of My Success, which was just funny, good times with Michael J. Fox. So
Yeah.
definitely the prestige pick of one of the prestige picks of
elevator
that year
type movie.
What's the first time you saw it, Bibbs?
Actually, not that long ago. I think I saw. I might have seen it when it came out when I was very young. But the first time I remember seeing it definitely was within the last 10 years. I think I was just going through the filmography of Mike Nichols, and I love it to pieces. It's so unexpected. It's just it really straddles the line between a lot of different genres and a lot of different expectations, and it's one of those movies that I really love because every time I've seen it, and I've seen it multiple times since then, I pick up on different wavelengths in the movie, and there are different aspects of it that come to the foreground because it's coming from a place, I think, of genuine, mature observation about the iniquities of business and capitalism and just social class. And of course, extreme sexism. And the older you get and the more experience you have witnessing those iniquities, suffering those iniquities, the more you pick up on just how serious the movie is and the more the shenanigans of pretending to be someone I'm not. I need someone to pretend to be me so that Harrison Ford won't think I'm not me, but I am me. That's funny, but that's not what the movie is about. And every time I watch it as I get older, I appreciate it more and more for the actual genuine intelligence with which it approaches its subject matter. And even though it's adorable, like there's so many things I love about it, like that ends up just taking more.
Uh-oh.
I'm back.
Frozen Bibbs.
Oh, Bibbs is frozen.
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you guys were frozen, so that's fine. Anyway, my point is this: it's one of those movies where you. My point is this: if it's one of those movies where you watch it when you're younger, you appreciate it on a somewhat superficial level, but it works on that level. And the older you get, the more you realize the movie was always mature, and you get to mature with it.
Yeah, well said. I mean, I saw it. I may have been too young to appreciate it on all those levels. And yeah, so exactly what you said. Because now I'm appreciating it on all those levels. I saw it in the theater in 1988 because I was seeing everything Harrison Ford was in pretty much after Temple of Doom. So Return of the Jedi, really. I wasn't going to miss anything. And I was even working at a movie theater, and I would pop in and catch the big moments. You know, and so when she one-ups, the boss, I got to go in and hear the audience reaction because I love that stuff. So I would do that all the time. But you mentioned the script a number of times. So let's talk about Kevin Wade. He is the writer. Apparently got the idea for the script after seeing women in tennis shoes carrying high heels around New York City. And he said, what's in this? And I got to figure it out. But this is what I love about it.
Would have been pretty cool if he had the idea to then write it with a woman or give the idea to a woman to give it their perspective. But we weren't there yet.
Yeah. Well, he had written one thing before this, a play called Key Exchange. And again, I'm tying into all this theater this week for some reason, but I directed that show in my senior year of college. And it's a good, nice little comedy. The film eventually was adapted not by him. It starred Brooke Adams and Daniel Stern and was directed by Barnett Kellman, who I eventually met later at USC, and the whole crazy world all coming together. So his first script, then he said, after that, I want to make a feature, Working Girl. And then he gets Golden Globe nomination. He gets, right out of the gate. And he goes on to write Junior, Mr. Baseball, Made in Manhattan. And he's still writing and show running Blue Bloods. So good on you, Kevin Wade. So, but I just love all the lines in this movie.
Great script.
It says there's the line. I mean, this was a oft quoted line when I was in college, not just, the line that your lower third there is mentioning, Bibbs. I have a head for business and a bod for sin, but pretty much everything Alec Baldwin said was repeated all the time. I mean, I can't remember the exact quote, but when he sees Tess all dressed up for her job interview in the bar, he's like, "Hey, you look great, Tess. Well, you got traffic court."
And there's no criticism, just that guy. Rewatching Working Girl now, I Alec Baldwin's hilarious in this because I'm like, this was the first time someone upgraded from Alec Baldwin to Harrison Ford. Like we're going to see that again real soon. We're going to see that again very, very quickly. Yeah, and it's always a good idea. I think that's really great.
Yeah, traded up Jack Ryan. Oh my God, I didn't even. Boy, that's a good observation.
Right.
Well, hey, by the way, for anybody who doesn't know, who hasn't seen Working Girl in a while, the what I call the Miami Blues version of Alec Baldwin. You know, there have been several Alec Baldwins through the years. This is definitely the Miami Blues Alec Baldwin, the young hunky hot guy. But he gets the Carrie Elways Award for douchebag that she's not going to end up with. But he plays that so like it's just so laser targeted, his douchiness.
You know, I feel like there's a less complicated movie where she's dating him. It looks like things are going well. Maybe they're going to get married. Maybe they'll take that next step. And then she has a shit day at work. I apologize. Can I swear? Did I ruin that? Okay.
I'll be
she's a shit day at work.
One again here. And
she's a shit day at work. She comes home early. It's like sliding doors. She catches him with Doreen. Damn it, Doreen.
What's her full name? It's Doreen. It's a great
something.
Jersey name.
Yeah, everyone's got wonderful names in this movie. But in most movies, that would be it. He'd be gone. He'd just be, and then we kick at the curb. He's obviously an asshole. We don't want to be him around. But the damn thing is that when they do end up in the same room together later on, when they're at Joan Cusack's like wedding party, or I guess it's like a combined bachelorette party or something.
I think it's a friend of his, so they both have to go to the shower.
Yeah, and you know what? They have so much shared history together that they actually get along. Yeah. And it doesn't seem like he misreads it as we can still get back together. She reads it as we just have so much shared history that we can kind of fall back into a rhythm, but I'm not going to marry you.
Right.
And I like that. I think that's something that movies, especially romantic comedies, tend to forget, is that people who are together for a long time, you build a relationship. If it's not completely toxic, and even sometimes if it is, you don't necessarily want to never see the person again. Or if you did, it doesn't mean you couldn't be civil. And I think that shows just an interesting, mature-ish character. He's a dick, but like he's not like irredeemable. He's just a dick. You know, we see irredeemable characters like Kevin Spacey is in this movie, playing a role that ultimately would make a lot of sense, and he seems irredeemable.
And he's there for the. He's there for the sketch comedy of the movie. Every once in a while, this movie is just, here's a skit. You know, the skit is the guys at her work who, I mean, and at the beginning of this, she's got a couple guys she works with who very deliberately will not allow her to go to a meeting, which would get her some advancement. So you get that immediate, like, and these guys are nobodies also. Yeah. And they set her up instead with Kevin Spacey, who is an immediate scene. Like, it's like a 1 minute scene. She's in the back, he's doing coke and just being a total like cokehead. Like, these guys have obviously put her up with a jerk,
right?
You know, but he fulfills that sort of like sketch over, moving on with the movie sort of.
Well, it serves several functions, that scene. On one hand, you know, you can look at it as like he's this broad caricature. On the other hand, that's not that far from the truth from many people who are absolute sleazebags. And that's not a situation, sadly, that everyone can say, you know, that doesn't happen. Like that has happened to people. And so, you know, when you're younger and maybe you're a little less experienced, you think to yourself, oh, that's ridiculous. And the older you get, you realize, no, some people would actually do that. And that is genuinely horrible, and good for her for getting herself out of that situation. Not everyone, you know, it's a tough situation to be in. So, but it also establishes that here is a line of sleaze bagginess that Harrison Ford, even at his worst in this movie, will not cross. Because when Harrison Ford meets her, it's you know, he's attracted to her. He goes up, says hi, wants to buy her a drink, doesn't realize that she has just taken some Valium and it's going to interact badly with the booze. And she even says, I took some Valium. I am tripping balls right now. And he's got to, you know, take care of her, and he doesn't know where she lives. And even if he did find out where she lives, it'd probably be kind of like a plot hole, because then he'd see that she lives on like Staten Island. It doesn't really fit her persona. So you can't really do that. So what's he going to do? He takes her home. And, you know, to be honest here, there's a version of this movie where you can't believe Harrison Ford fully when he says that nothing happened and he didn't do something unforgivable. But so much of this movie is trying to mitigate that, One, we see just how much worse Kevin Spacey is when we realize Harrison Ford is not that guy.
Yeah.
Two, we see there's a cute scene, and it seems like it's kind of a cute scene in a vacuum, and then you realize it helps with this other moment where Harrison Ford is distracted and he's changing his shirt in his office, doesn't realize his blinds are open, and all of the women in the office can see him. And what you realize is that all of them are staring at him because he's Harrison Ford and he's a snack. But also, all of them are actually into him and they're not threatened by him. And you realize that he is not that guy. And all of the other people who are in exactly Melanie Griffith's situation like and trust him.
Yeah,
and that really
good point.
makes a huge difference, and it really helps you believe when really you are kind of taking his word for it that he didn't do something terrible. And if you believe for 1 minute that he's that kind of a monster, the movie falls apart.
The movie would be sunk.
The movie would be, and rightly so. And
Yeah.
honestly, I still think it's kind of weird and creepy that they even went as far as they did, brushing up against that. But they did, and I think this was what they tried to do in order to make that as okay as possible. And I think they pretty much got away with it, although it can be kind of weird to watch that scene.
Yeah, except it's directed by Mike Nichols. I mean, this is almost what you could say about this. This entire movie is a series of minefields. If it trips on any one of them, it becomes a farce, but it doesn't do that. If it trips on any one of them, it becomes the classic. I mean, the fact that the plot is, she takes over someone else's life, which is like, what's the Charles Grodin one, Mr. Destiny or whatever. Like, you can think of all your cliche or the associate with Whoopi Goldberg.
Taking care of business.
Taking care of business. I think that's what you're thinking of.
No,
it's what was the other one with
Jim Belushi surfing on the front of the car?
Yeah, no, he gets the Rolodex of a rich guy, and Rolodex.
Wasn't Jim Belushi in the Michael Caine one with where he's like, what if he hit that home run and he didn't marry Linda Hamilton?
That is
Mr. Destiny. Okay, I didn't remember that being
okay.
Is Charles Grodin in that?
No, taking care of business is
taking care of business.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, just making sure. All right, we got him confused. Okay,
we're all free to forget this shit now that the Schmodown's over. So that's the problem. On here.
It has completely changed the way I watch movies, and I'm still getting used to it. And it's really, really weird that I no longer have to go out of my way to absorb trivia, and I just do it the usual way.
The way this conversation just went, though, I always feel the need to end once we go off on a tangent like that. I always feel the need to come back to, so what are you looking to rent today? Because that doesn't always the conversation feels like that.
At the old video store. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Well, some of the things we talked. First of all, Jack Trainer. This is another great Harrison Ford name, right? We've been talking about Rick Deckard and all these great names, and
right.
I think Jack Trainer's another one.
John Book.
And so let's talk about him a little more.
Alec
this
Fox.
is more classic Harrison Ford underplaying, I think, right? Especially in those scenes where he has to be gentle with her. The earth moved, the angels wept, the Polaroids are in my other coat. Nothing.
Very dark line. A very dark. That is a dark joke to make.
Yeah,
and that's where it really goes up against. Is this really the vibe you want to be going on if you want to date them? Okay.
But I think he by underplaying, he straddled that line quite well.
Yeah.
I think he does it the whole
still
film.
a hell of a line to want to straddle. That's all.
I would just want to go back to you think she's taken a Valium, she's drunk, and now he has to get her home. The way that gets deflated in a Mike Nichols comedy is because he has to haul her up a flight of stairs, and Mike Nichols pack of potatoes, and that is not romantic. That is not is not a prelude to any sort of sexiness. It's just kind of funny. He's got her and he's trying to find his keys, and he's got, I mean, it's interesting how it navigates all the minefields.
I've seen so many movies that have tackled a similar situation and tried to make it seem like it's funny or this isn't, but what was that? I was just watching. Oh my god! It was a Norma Shearer rom-com from the 1930s. She was nominated for an Academy Award for it, and I am going to lose my mind if I don't remember this. It wasn't Smiling Through. It wasn't Romeo and Juliet.
IMDb.
I am. Hold on. sorry. Well, in any case,
4.
No, it's fine. It's fine. But in any case, I was watching this movie. I think it was Norma Shearer, and it was she got drunk the love interest like took her up to his apartment, and he started like trying to put the moves on her, and it's like she's absolutely like completely sobers up, is totally horrified, runs from him in terror, and he's just sort of smirking, going, and then later they end up together. No, you've lost us. You've lost us forever. Even she knows it. You can't get it back. I need to remember the name of that movie because that's going to drive me up the damn wall.
Did you cover this on your podcast where you cover every single best Oscar nominee?
No, I
Okay,
didn't, because it wasn't nominated for Best Picture. It wasn't nominated for Best Picture. Hold on, this is going to just drive me up.
Is that a sign of the times? Do people watch that Norma Shearer film and go, "Oh, that man is a scamp, isn't he? He's charming."
I feel like again, you got to remember who was telling the story. Were the people telling the story the kind of assholes who would think that was cute and would be trying to sell to audiences the idea that kind of behavior is affable and likable? And no, not really. But we want to give filmmakers and storytellers the benefit of the doubt, but we've learned time and time again that we really do need to question them and not take them for granted that they mean well. They might not, at least subconsciously.
Well, let me just, while you're thinking of that Norma Shearer movie, I just want to say what we're talking about right now in the plot is what this movie does so well, that if you took any block out of the Jenga pile that becomes this movie, it does fall apart. If you take out, first of all, if he doesn't meet her early, but rather meets her in the course of business, it's a different movie. The fact that he meets her early and that they have this awkward night, makes the time that they meet next for business a whole different scene. Now it's the scene where she walks into the meeting. Oh, and there he is. And now they've had this night, whereas they were expecting to, she was expecting to meet him, in some other way. But I do have to, I pulled some clips here, and I do have to show this scene because this is where I wish I'd been in a theater to see this joke played out at the time, which is when she gets asked what she wants coffee, and she reacts as though she's the secretary. And this is just one of those like great,
I know, it's
great Mike Nichols moments here. Let's see, where is
you can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah, that's you're new.
We'll edit this later.
Maybe I didn't pull this one.
No,
I must not have pulled it.
Well, I can tell you right now, I can fill time. I can fill time because I realized what I did wrong. I made a classic blunder. I mixed up Norma Shearer with Irene Dunn, and to me they look alike. But it was Irene Dunn in a film called Theodora Goes Wild, which stars her and Melvin Douglas. And like between Theodora Goes Wild and Ninochka, I do not understand the romantic appeal of Melvin Douglas. He always comes across like a creep. But anyway, so if you're wondering what movie I was thinking of, it's called Theodora Goes Wild. It starts well, it gets worse, and unfortunately, I can't quite recommend it. But it is, I believe, currently on the Criterion channel if you want to check it out.
And when you say Melvin Douglas, I immediately picture old Melvin Douglas, and then I agree 100%. I don't see the sexual appeal.
Like the early years of Melvin Douglas, like he got his Academy Awards in like the 60s, and then like for being there, and like I think most of his like greatest claim as an actor comes from later in his career, but his early stuff, everything I've seen, he always just comes across unpleasant in a way that I'm not. Again, he was very prolific, though. Maybe I've only seen the wrong films. I cannot speak to it.
Was he in Going in Style? Was that the?
Oh, was that him? I honestly don't remember.
Is that the third hand or fourth hand of that four-hander?
Yeah, I honestly don't recall. And I don't want to make this just us looking stuff up on Wikipedia. I feel like that.
No. Here, let's get into it. Let's get into a clip here. First of all, I have to say before this scene in my order here, Harrison Ford, in his intro scene in several movies in a row, is with a beautiful turn or reveal. He gets introduced in movies so well. Look at this turn here. But with the puppy dog face. This is what we call puppy dog Harrison Ford. And I wasn't expecting puppy dog Harrison Ford in this movie. I haven't seen this movie since it first came out. So this was a brand new movie for me. And I was like, oh my God, it's puppy dog Harrison Ford. I wasn't expecting that. I thought it was a big business guy, Harrison Ford, you know?
No, and they held off on Harrison Ford for a while. He doesn't show up in the movie for a huge chunk of it. And so it is a reveal when he's there. Like, cool. Okay, Harrison Ford is here. And it's interesting because, you know, we've seen Melanie Griffith in this movie. We've seen her be confident. We've seen her be funny. We've seen her be sexy. And we've seen her be actually unhappy being sexy. Like there's that scene with Alec Baldwin where it's her birthday and he gets her sexy lingerie, which is clearly more for him than her.
Yeah.
And so this idea of leering at her has already been made in the audience's mind. Like, yeah, she's Melanie Griffith and she's gorgeous, but it's also a little unpleasant and we shouldn't be doing it. And here's this creep staring at her from across the party. And then he turns around and first off, it's Harrison Ford. And secondly, it's Harrison Ford and he looks like he's in over his head. He doesn't look like I'm going to go get me an attractive date for the night. No, it's like, oh no, how can I talk to a girl? Like, and so immediately you say to yourself, okay, this is probably going to be fine.
Yeah, that was surprising to me. And I loved that. I loved him playing that mode because it brought him down to her level. You know, Mike Nichols comes from the Second City, which, you know, Paul and I trained with. And one thing that was very hammered into our heads was the idea of status. So that some, you know, if this happens, then my status drops. Or if you reveal this, then your status drops or whatever, that sort of thing. This movie is one great game of status because at first, you know that Jack Trainer is a guy connected to this big account, but you don't know who he is. But then when he gets introduced, you go, oh, he's not any more, you know, above this than she is in her field, even though he's risen a little higher, you know?
Yeah, he's got a little bit more experience doing the actual gig. And I actually really like the scene where they're just eating like a falafel together or something. And he realizes that he assumes she's doing all of this work above board in her office. And he realizes he's done nothing. And he realizes, wait a minute, are you good at this? Like, what are you up to? And he eventually realizes she's great. She just, you know, has limited options. But yeah, no, status is like a really, really, really huge part of it. One of my favorite bits in the movie is when Melanie Griffith it's just before that party. She's putting on Sigourney Weaver's clothes, and Sigourney Weaver is much
shoulder patty. Sorry, you froze, Bibbs.
Oh, was it just me again?
Yeah, you were saying the clothes. The difference was it that they were more shoulder patty than?
Well, first off, there's more shoulder padding, and honestly, I miss it. But that's just me. I grew up in the 80s,
I know, right?
But I will say there's a scene where I'm going to put on Sigourney Weaver's much fancier clothes, and I'm going to show up at this party dressed to the nines. I'm going to cut my hair, and you know, she's going to look fancy, like above her station, to use completely outdated lingo. And there's a moment where Joan Cusack points out that the dress she's picked out for the event costs $6,000 in the 80s. That's expensive now. That's obscene in the 80s. And you see Melanie Griffith like, I need to sit down because that's multiple months of salary for like anyone. At that time, hell, for me, that's well beyond. I don't think I've ever spent $6,000 on anything in my life.
No,
today,
never. Bought.
So it's just an obscene amount of money, and just the reality of the kind of excess that she's playing with here. And if she spills a drink on that, she's like, just ruining the dress, let alone the whole scheme. But if she just ruins that dress, she's in so much trouble. And it's just the reality of that is just crashing down, and it's shocking if you think about it.
And this movie's so well written that it never forgets to remind you of where each character is. It doesn't assume that, oh, you remember 15 minutes ago that she said this about her. Here are the stakes. And now we're into the next scene. Here is where these two people are in terms of status, and now into the next scene. It's a remarkable thing this movie puts together.
A lot of that jump it falls on the shoulders of Joan Cusack, and I feel like Joan Cusack's character in this movie probably surprised people by how much they loved her. She's the last like 2 shots of the movie, basically, and something tells me like I wouldn't be surprised if that was a test audience saying, "Can you bring Joan Cusack back at the end?" Because she's amazing, and she's amazing in everything. This is one of her 2 Oscar nominations. It was for this and In and Out. It is so hard to get an Oscar nomination for comedy, and she did it twice.
Wow.
And just a class act, very, very funny human being. But there's a scene I really like with Joan Cusack where it's about her like setting down the stakes, but it's also about sort of misunderstanding where Melanie Griffith is coming from. And I really like this about the movie. She's talking to Melanie Griffith, and it's as the scheme is coming together, and she realizes that Melanie Griffith is super into Harrison Ford. And she says something to the effect of, you know that you're lying to him, and he's not going to whisk you away from all of this. And I think in a lesser romantic comedy, that might have been the idea, this guy's going to take me away from my terrible life. She doesn't want that. She doesn't want someone to take her away from this terrible life. She wants to work.
Yeah.
She wants to do a job. She wants to do what she wants to do. And the reason why Jack Traynor is so appealing isn't just that he's handsome. She's seen handsome. She was dating Alec Baldwin. It isn't just that he's likable. That's nothing. Who cares? It's that he wants to work with her. He sees her as an equal, and he wants to do the job that she wants to do. And there's this wonderful bit right at the end where you realize that she lost the place to live because she's no longer living with Alec Baldwin. She lost her job, even though she's got a new one, but she doesn't even know what it is. And she's clearly staying with Harrison Ford at least for a while. And they've already got a morning routine down for prepare for their work day. There's no domesticity there. They're hovering around a sink, trading off a piece of toast, getting ready for work. They are going to be a working couple, and they are happy that way. And that's so mature, and you don't see that enough.
Wow. Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah. And okay, so Joan Cusack gets the Oscar nomination. Also nominated Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actress. And Sigourney Weaver also nominated for Best Supporting Actress. That was right about the time people were saying things like they might cancel each other out. I think it's for the first time, although it's probably happened before. It's probably the first time I heard that concept. I was like, wait, what? You know? Yeah,
that's gone around for a while. That happened, I think, for the first time in Going My Way, when an actor, was it Barry Fitzgerald? Oh, this is going to drive me nuts. Hang on a second. Going My Way was the Best Picture winner in the 1940s.
Glad we can have you on here to drive you nuts, man.
Thank you. It is Barry Fitzgerald. So Going My Way is a Bing Crosby movie from the 1940s where he plays a Catholic priest who goes to a sort of a troubled parish that is having trouble sort of adapting to modern times. And he's like kind of this new cool priest who will sing songs with the kids and help people out in their situations rather than just judging them for it and being mean. And Barry Fitzgerald plays the old, good, but stuck in his ways priest who learns to lighten up. Barry Fitzgerald was nominated for 2 Academy Awards for that movie, for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor, the same character. Because they hadn't thought to put in a rule that said you can't do that. Every other category at the Academy Awards is you either directed this movie or you didn't. There's no confusion of that. Whereas an actor, if you were a supporting actor or a lead, it was up to the people voting to decide where they wanted to put you. And that was one of the first where you could totally see it going either way. And he was nominated for both. And eventually, and after that, they changed the rules saying you can't do that, which is where we started getting this idea of category fraud, where studios or publicists or actors would promote themselves for whichever category seems like they could probably win, not necessarily what actually makes sense based on the film. And I've seen so many movies, like Marcia Gay Harden won Best Supporting Actress for Pollock. She's the second lead in that movie.
Yeah.
It's just, there's no...
But she would have lost against,
possibly.
whoever, if they'd put her for lead,
right? Who can say? But possibly, and so that kind of thing just sort of creeps in. But yeah, Sigourney Weaver was nominated twice that year. Didn't win either one. The one Academy Award it won was for Best Original Song for Carly Simon's Let the River Run. And it was actually kind of the 80s was a pretty powerhouse decade for the Best Original Song category. There were a lot of really, really great songs that didn't win because they were up against other really, really great songs. But the nominees for the 1998 were not amazing, apart from Carly Simon. But when you look back at it, you realize that there's at least 1 or 2 absolute banger original songs that were mysteriously not nominated. And I put it to you that, granted, Kenny Loggins' song from Caddyshack 2 probably didn't have much of a chance, but regardless of what you think about that movie, the song is good. It's a really, really good song. I'm going all the way. Like, it's awesome. Kicks ass.
Later. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great song. If you didn't know it was from Caddyshack, you'd think it was amazing. And if you even if you saw it in Caddyshack, you go, that's a good song. But the song for me that I think everyone knows, everyone loves, the movie was a hit, even though it was one of those, like, it's a hit, but no one ever actually thinks it's particularly good kind of things. Kokomo.
Oh.
The Beach Boys song, Kokomo, was in Cocktail.
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 That song.
That song is amazing. That's one of the Beach Boys' most, like, and this is for the Beach Boys, that's saying something. That's one of their most crowd-pleasing, memorable songs the Beach Boys ever did, and it's from Cocktail. How did that? Was there like a technicality? Sometimes that happens. I want to know, because if you think about it, and I like this Carly Simon song a lot, I think it was up against Kokomo when they had a chance. Because Kokomo is just kills. Yeah.
Well, that brings me to a clip of the opening of this movie, because we launch into this song, and I do have to ask you before I get into this. This is Mike Nichols, so we begin with this Carly Simon song that is a gospel, basically.
Kinda.
Is it ironic? Because it is seeming to be in praise of the business and the buildings of New York, and I'm like, this is playing as irony, right? Or is it earnest? What do you think about that?
I think it could go both ways, and I think that's one of the interesting things about the song. When I think about the song, when I think about like "Let the River Run," I mean, it has this biblical quality, this almost baptismal quality.
The word Jerusalem is in the. Yeah.
But when I think about there's two rivers I think about when I think about New York. There's obviously the river around New York, the Hudson River and various other waterways, but there's also the tide of people. And if you think about where did this screenplay come from, it came from seeing people going to work wearing comfortable shoes so that they can then put on uncomfortable shoes when they finally get to work. Yeah, on boats. But regardless, like one of my favorite visual gags I've ever seen in New York is from Crocodile Dundee, where everyone in New York is walking, I don't know, west. And Crocodile Dundee is the only person walking east. And it's just him trying to go upstream. And it just doesn't fit. And so the river, if you think about it, is the working class people who are working in this city, who are traveling by river, who are traveling by ferry, and are really make up the life force and ecosystem of New York City. So for me, that's the way the song works best. And I think that's where the praise element, that sort of laudatory element, makes the most sense.
Well
the quick fact on that, though, is Simon won the Grammy and the Golden Globe and the Oscar, and it's the first artist to win doing it all solo, composing, writing, and performing.
Oh, wow.
Springsteen did it since then, and I'm not sure since. So it's an elite group of people who do that.
Yeah.
Well, and again, I'm going to keep harping on this because this movie is so efficient in how it sets everything up. If you're going to set up someone to be of lower status, you've got the people who live in Manhattan. That's who Sigourney Weaver is. She has to come from the other side on a boat that obviously looks different, got the Jersey Mall hair, all that sort of thing. And then she gradually shifts to become much more like Sigourney Weaver. But the way that's all set up, and then they're on the boat and it's happy birthday and blowing out the candle on the 2 minutes before she hits that office. And the movie just keeps playing like that, loading us up with, who these people are. It's such an efficient machine, this movie.
Yeah.
And Bibbs, you talked about maybe Kevin Wade handing the reins of writing over to a female. Here's a switch he made before it got to the final cut. Tessa's assistant at the end was supposed to be a man, and I can see the choice there to put her then above those who have been sexist to her in the past, but I think they switched it to a female so they can see her be kind to other women in her work.
Because having her in charge of a man feels poetic, but seeing that she is not going to be Sigourney Weaver and that she will not pull the ladder back up after her, and she will actually treat the people who in her former position with dignity and respect. That's the important thing. And I think that's the lesson we need to learn, because otherwise it's just basically like, Sigourney Weaver's terrible. Like, no. She's actually a really complicated character.
Yeah,
but she's not just cartoonishly evil. She has feelings. She's just doesn't deal with them very well, and she's very, very selfish. But we're not demonizing that, and I think that's very good. Yeah,
I was surprised that her character was not, Devil Wears Prada. It was, she didn't come out and just, as a terror. She was very complicated. Acts like, Melanie Griffith's her pal, but they're not really ever going to have lunch together.
She's so convincing when she says something, even like towards the end of the movie, when she comes back from the ski trip and she says, "Oh, you might have seen this on my computer and that probably looks really bad to you. But I assure you, I was going to tell you this, but I was on a ski trip. I was actually doing something good and I was trying to help you out." And Melanie Griffith isn't 100% sure she's lying. She's that good at this. She is that good. That's how she achieved her position in a world where that was the only way you could, was to be as underhanded as the people who are trying to keep you down. Melanie Griffith has had to be underhanded in order to succeed as well. She just didn't let it corrupt her in the process.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky balance.
Yeah, and that's one thing that never has to be said is like Sigourney Weaver gives her the advice on screwing her over, or not screwing her over, but taking advantage of when she's out of commission, when she breaks her leg skiing. Right before that, she tells Melanie Griffith, like, "Hey man, you do you don't take no for an answer," like giving her all the advice, and she basically does all that, but it takes over Sigourney's life while she was gone.
Yeah.
So speaking of Devil Wears Prada, considered for Catherine, and they eventually made their way around to Sigourney Weaver, Meryl Streep. That tracks. Kathleen Turner probably be pretty good.
Also be great.
That would be good.
Cher. Gina Davis, probably a little young, I think, but I guess instead of older, pretending to be.
Probably would have been. Funny thing is that she ended up beating both Sigourney Weaver and Joan Cusack for Best Supporting Actress that year.
Oh, is this the year of
Accidental Tourist? Yeah.
Yeah,
Accidental Tourist. Yeah.
Deborah Winger and Shelley Long were all in consideration.
Well, it was 88.
It's funny. It's funny actually. Speaking of again, this was up against Big for some stuff, and Harrison Ford was almost in Big, and Deborah Winger tried to convince the makers of Big to recast the lead as a female and to let her play the Tom Hanks role. And you know what? Probably would have been really good. It's almost a shame that didn't happen. But
your alternate Tesses include Michelle Pfeiffer, Brooke Shields, who apparently really was looking for some a big prestige pick like this to be a part of, Diane Lane, Sarah Jessica Parker, Demi Moore, and Lorraine Bracco, who apparently auditioned amazingly and didn't get it and was heartbroken. She wrote in a memoir later.
Yeah, bad. Yeah, that's brutal. We all know who ended up starring in the TV series of Working Girl, right?
Yes, I do not.
I do. Yeah.
There was a sitcom of Working Girl, came out 2 years later. It was a mid-season replacement. It was, and the protagonist. It was a slight different story. It takes place. It's not great. It takes place at the Trask Industries, and it kind of just says she's already working there. Her boss is kind of a terror. Her boss is played by Nana Visitor from Deep Space Nine. And her love interest is played by George Newbern, who would eventually be the voice of Superman. And she was played by Sandra Bullock.
What?
Sandra Bullock. Yeah. Sandra Bullock.
Let's see if I can play this. Man, I got a clip of it, but it's not playing. Adam, can you play it in the? I don't know why it's not playing.
Here,
click play, but nothing's happening. So look for Working Girl TV show intro 1990.
Oh, there it is. Okay, let's see.
Silver cities rise, the morning lights, the streets that bleed.
Get out of town.
What? And sirens call them on with the song. It's asking for the taking, trembling, shaking. Oh, my heart is aching. We're coming to the edge, running on the water, coming to the fog, your sun and daughter sing.
Good luck. Replacing Harrison Ford.
Stand on a star and blaze a trail of desire through the dark, clear dawn.
Yep.
That is as 80 a TV show intro.
Right.
As that the film is it's not Michael Ballhaus.
No
shooting.
No, it is not. No, it's exactly what you'd think.
Right.
It's workplace shenanigans. I have a boss they can't be trusted, and I have to put one over on her, but I'll stick with it, and it'll be a whole thing. It's not very funny. I've seen worse, but it's not very good, and you can tell that like Sandra Bullock's actually not bad casting for that character, but she brings a much different energy than Melanie Griffith did. She's much more of a she's more forceful, I think, than Melanie Griffith is, and just in terms, she's doing Miss Congeniality, Sandra Bullock, and that's a very different kind of comedic set piece. And again, because it's like a sitcom and it's like a late '80s, early '90s sitcom in particular, it's not subtle. It doesn't have you can't mistake it for like a story you can take seriously. There's actually a pretty good bit in the pilot where like she's trying to get a job, and then a visitor won't even let her like apply for it because it's like, I'm not going to waste my time with a secretary. And her dad actually has a speech that's all about how, they're never going to let you succeed because we're poor. Like, we can try to better ourselves. We'll do the best we can, but those doors are shut to us, and that should piss you off. And you should learn to settle for that. And then he realizes that he broke her heart, and he kind of just told her all of her dreams were crap. And eventually he supports her. And that bit's kind of nice, but it's just not funny. That's all there is to it. It's just
it lasted 12 episodes, and they're not done because apparently a reboot's been in development for a while at Hulu. So Gomez is being wooed as a producer.
Hey, every Harrison Ford movie is becoming a TV show now. It's time
there you
go. I think.
And
who would have thought Mosquito Coast would be one of the first?
And a Broadway musical's been in the works since 2017 with Cyndi Lauper behind the music. She, of course, has since then, I think, or maybe around then, had success with Kinky Boots. So she's got Broadway cred now, and maybe it'll happen.
The movie feels like it could easily be a play and definitely a musical. There are points in time where, she's sad and you're like, ooh, you could break right into a song at this point, I think.
Totally.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
That'll work.
But since we just played the opening to the TV show, I want to go back to the opening to this movie. And I just want to say something interesting about doing the Ford Fiesta this is because of the way video rights have been secured. When we watched Raiders or Star Wars, we did not get the Fox fanfare. So in the Ford Fiesta, this is the very first time we've gotten the Fox fanfare before a Harrison Ford movie. And when you think about the Fox fanfare and Harrison Ford, you expect a very different piece of music to happen after this. It's almost it's
want to watch it again.
It's almost feels like that music feels at the top there feels like Chariots of Fire.
a little bit. There was definitely a vibe a lot of movies had to their music in the 80s, and trends that got come and go. What I think is what I was just thinking about, I hadn't thought about this in forever because I got so used, sadly, to Disney owning Star Wars that I kind of forgot that they used to open with the 20th Century Fox logo for a minute. And then I realized something. You bought 20th Century Fox. Put it back.
I know.
It doesn't hurt your brand anymore. Like, who cares? Put it back.
I heard they did.
Did they put it back? I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it on Disney Plus in a while. If they put it back, good. I'm glad to hear it because that's great.
At least put the music underneath the Lucasfilm logo, just so I can get that dun 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 dun. Something.
Yeah,
Since
and like the second half of that was written by John Williams.
Oh, the orchestration.
Because it used to just be bum 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 bum. John Williams. Bum 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 bum. Yeah. It didn't used to go that hard.
It only belongs before Star Wars.
It didn't used to go that hard. Yeah.
Wow.
So I mentioned Michael Ballhaus, otherwise in the stacked tech team behind this movie, Patrizia Van Brandenstein, production designer of Amadeus and The Untouchables, Sam Osteen, who we mentioned because he edited Frantic, so he did two.
I was going to say, we just talked about him when I saw it.
Yeah, but he worked a ton with Mike Nichols. He will work more with him after this, and he goes all the way back to The Graduate, and he also cut Chinatown. And of course, Michael Ballhaus shot so much Scorsese stuff. It's just crazy. Goodfellas. He's coming off Color of Money. So that's why you get that just insane, helicopter shot, I guess. They're not droning.
It's definitely a helicopter shot.
So they're not droning.
It's like you half expected to like, because what it does is it like you start at the Statue of Liberty, you go down to the river, you start focusing on the ferry, and then you realize that it's not the locale we're looking at, it's actually the ferry. And then we move closer and closer and closer, and you almost expect it to be one continuous shot, like right into the ferry and just like end on a close-up of Melanie Griffith. And you can't do that, so they try to do it dissolve, and they get away with it, but it's not, you can tell that like in Michael Nichols' head, he was going to do the shot that Hitchcock wanted to open Psycho with, and he couldn't quite pull it off because it was impossible. But
yeah, see any of these helicopter shots in these old movies, you're like, there is a helicopter parked outside that office building. Like, like in order to get that sort of thing, you're like, how close was that helicopter to this?
And again, helicopters are incredibly dangerous to work with. We all heard of a story about Twilight Zone, the movie, and nowadays, like if you're, I interviewed Judy Greer about a couple of things, but one of them was about her role in Jurassic World. She's in like the first like 2 scenes of the movie because those are her kids going to Jurassic World. And it was before I knew that before I'd seen the movie, and I was asked, do you get to do any cool dinosaur action? And she's like, no, I don't get to do any cool dinosaur action, but I did have to sign like a waiver about like being careful on helicopter shots. And I was like, yeah, that's because of Twilight Zone the movie. That is exactly why everyone probably has to do that on every movie now, regardless of whether a helicopter is involved. If you want to be really disappointed in John Landis and Steven Spielberg, look up that story, because yikes.
Or don't.
It will ruin your day. It will ruin your day if you don't already know about it.
Quick fun actor facts, and then we'll start wrapping this up. But Kevin Spacey, apparently a last-minute replacement for another actor. He learned his lines the day of the shoot. Mike Nichols was rushing things to get to his wedding date, so they didn't bleed into when he had to marry Diane Sawyer.
Oh, wow.
Of course.
Do we know who he replaced?
They didn't say that.
Bummer.
Okay, I would like to know that.
Yeah.
Alec Baldwin, we talked about him getting replaced by Harrison Ford for Jack Ryan. They considered him for Jack Traynor, but in fact had him kind of in the books, and they said, you know what, we got Harrison Ford. Do you mind playing Mick? And apparently he was super gracious about it and went in there and killed the part of Mick. Who the fuck died and made you Grace Kelly? I mean, the line we said in college more than anything else was maybe means dick. Fuck maybe. I love that line so much I can't.
Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin can be a very good actor. He does not have puppy dog energy. I don't think I've ever seen him with puppy dog energy. So I think that worked out
pretty hard.
What a great revelation here that just didn't occur to me, that if you want her to leave that guy, which we do, of course we want her to be with Harrison Ford at some point, but the fact that they cast someone who is absolutely handsome and hunky and who just has a terrible personality is just such a good choice, because ordinarily they'd cast like William Baldwin and you go, she ain't gonna be with that guy.
I think he doesn't even have the worst personality. Like, you can carry a conversation with him and enjoy his company. We see, and because of those later scenes, we understand why she was with him that long. But he he doesn't care as much about her as he does about himself.
It's so smart to bring them back together.
It's just you and me. What, you gonna marry me or what? Maybe.
I know, right? That's his proposal. You gonna marry
Honestly,
me?
I'm amazed he got that. I think he only got that because she was in public. Because you just threw that gauntlet down of everybody. You do not ask someone to marry you in front of a huge crowd of people unless you are 100% certain, A, that they're going to say yes, and B, that they're not going to be pissed at you for putting them on the spot like that in front of a crowd. That is a very dangerous thing to do. So,
but going back to the Jenga pile, the perfect Jenga pile that this movie is, if you take that scene and put it earlier, which you could have, and found out that she didn't want to marry him then, it's a different movie. If you never come back to Alec Baldwin after she falls for Jack Traynor, it's a different movie. So I just really love the way this whole thing's laid out.
Yeah. Elsewhere in the future, as we mentioned, Melanie Griffith wins the Golden Globe. It was a long journey. She was Miss Golden Globe in 1975, which I think
Miss Golden Globe,
but she was
Miss Golden Globe is
sort of representing walking people.
Yeah,
Just
it usually goes to it usually goes to the child of like some prominent actor or performer or maybe even director. And yeah, you just basically you hand people the award, take them off stage. It's very ceremonial, and much like everything else at the Golden Globes, it's total bullshit.
Laura Dern also did it, and then later won a Golden Globe as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And this was, but Melanie Griffith would never hit these box office heights again. Unfortunately, Pacific Heights might be the closest she came or something being involved in. Other than that, she wasn't in many hits thereafter.
That can't be right. That feels so weird.
I know, but
because it's interesting because she was, and when I was growing up, she was a movie star. She was a proper movie. Everyone knew who Melanie Griffith was, even when she was in something just execrable like Milk Money. Like that's a fucking film, man. That's an amazing fucking weird fucking thing. Ed Harris, Malcolm McDowell. People thought that movie was fine. People read that script, and I was like, let's throw millions of dollars at that.
I mean, like Born Yesterday. That's the same year, I think, is like Milk Money, isn't it?
But that film, but like,
but they're none of them are.
I'm literally looking up like her filmography right now just because I don't believe that. That's so weird to me.
But in the year after this, Bonfire of the Vanities.
Yeah, Bonfire. I think it was like 2 years.
But you know what? That only hurt the careers of her. That only hurt her career. It did not hurt Tom Hanks. Maybe he took a year off. No, not even a year off. It didn't hurt him. It didn't hurt Bruce Willis.
It hurt Brian De Palma.
Sexism.
It hurt Brian De Palma. I think it hurt De Palma. But that is true, and that was not fair. But it's weird because I think of like so many of like the great Melanie Griffith roles, or the roles I consider the great Melanie Griffith roles, and I guess they weren't a hit. Like I love Body Double. Speaking of De Palma, amazing thriller, super bizarre. She had Oscar buzz for that movie. She didn't get nominated, but she should have. I love it's a silly film, but it's intentionally so. I love Cherry 2000. Cherry 2000. Cherry 2000. It's after the apocalypse, and this guy is married to a sex robot, and she breaks down, and he needs to find like a new CPU, but the only CPU is available is at the other end of this like wasteland. So he hires Melanie Griffith to like help him fight like super mutants and stuff. They're like, it's actually like a self-help cult more than anything. It's super weird, but I love that movie to pieces.
I've heard of that, but I didn't know.
And then she was
Harrison Ford. I saw an interview where Ford said he was interested in working with her because he had seen Something Wild, which was again not a hit. But I think everybody who sees that likes that movie.
And I would argue that I think her finest hour is Cecil B. Demented, which is literally one of the best movies ever made about movies.
Stephen Dorff, right?
Yeah, right. Stephen Dorff, Michael Shannon, Maggie Gyllenhaal.
I haven't seen
a lot of great movies. It holds up really good. The anger it has at the studio machine is still very appropriate. It's super great. If you've never seen, if you watch Working Girl for this, or even if you haven't, and you've never seen Cecil B. Demented, watch Cecil B. Demented. It's a treasure. It's so great.
It's got to be Stephen Dorff's best movie, right?
I like The Gate.
Yeah,
The Gate's fun.
I like Blade, but
Blade's cool. He's very fun in Blade.
He's an okay villain in it. He was good for the time, certainly. He was a great villain for the time. Yeah.
He does what he has to do. He's very, very good in that moment.
Working Girls.
So what did you want to rent? Sorry.
Stop talking to your friends. They're customers.
Sorry. What were you looking around?
They're customers.
Right.
This Working Girl's currently 85% on decaying vegetables. Ebert gave it 4 out of 4 stars. And I like this thought about this. He says, the plot of Working Girl is put together like clockwork. It carries you along while you're watching it, but reconstruct it later and you'll see the craftsmanship, which I think is a good point, because you're entertained throughout. Then you look back and you go, oh, even today we're talking about the Jenga and everything working, and how it treads lines very, very smoothly. And made Siskel's top 10 of the year. And Adam, the Wikipedia page and anything I could find, none of the usual assholes show up to crap on it. Usually we're talking about everybody loved it, but Pauline Kael and Rex Reed or whoever,
everybody loved this one.
But there's none of that. It seems like Time liked it, Maslin liked it, et cetera, et cetera. So generally beloved film.
Honestly, like, it holds up really, really great. And really it's one of those movies, like, you watch some movies and it's like, okay, well, the style is weird. And the hair. Like Joan Cusack's hair, no one would have that hair today. Even at the time, it was a little extreme.
Even at the time, I was going to say,
it was a little extreme even at the time. But she was playing like a larger than life character, so it worked. But like,
absolutely,
yeah, this movie just ages like a fine wine. Like it's really, really good. It's a period piece, obviously, but now it is. And all movies set in the present day will one day by future generations be seen as period pieces.
That's a universal law of movies.
It is. And even
eventually
films,
everything becomes a period piece.
Even films that are like set in the future will eventually feel like period pieces because you couldn't predict everything. Like you watch Star Trek, the original series now, and it still takes place like a couple centuries in the future, but their idea of what computer technology would be is way behind what it is today because they couldn't imagine that hard.
Tomorrow's.
Yeah. Exactly. So exactly. So even the future is the future of the past. So it's just you just accept that and you move on. But like some movies, you barely have to think about it. And Working Girl, it just sadly so much of it is still relevant. Like so much of the iniquities of the workplace,
sexual politics,
like just the absolute forthright sexual harassment that takes place at periods throughout this film, and the way that people take advantage of people who work quote unquote beneath them is something that is still a thing, and it's tragic. And
her character, and much like 9 to 5, everybody that went to go see this movie, or most of the people that went to go see this movie, were in some sort of position like she was. Especially for the women that went to go see this movie. All of them. It was 88. All of them were in her position. And so this is much like 9 to 5. This is just such a heroic stand up and cheer type of movie because she wins. She isn't handed the victory and she earns it. And we, the audience,
we, the audience, what, Adam?
You cut out for a second.
Oh, sorry. And we, the audience, weren't played down to by her pursuit of it, by having it handed to her or some dumb plot machination. She had to work for it and get knocked back. Work for it, knocked back.
I love at the end of the movie the way that she proves that this was her idea wasn't with and I found video footage or something like that. It was like, no, I can tell you how my mind works. I can prove to you that I'm an intelligent person, regardless of whether or not you'd see it on a resume. And Sigourney Weaver cannot.
She cannot.
She cannot show you the work. And you know what? She can't think on her feet that fast either. She wasn't ready to be manipulative that day. So it's a good ending. It's a satisfying ending.
Well, what's so interesting is nothing occurs once in this movie. Everything occurs at least twice. Like, for example, just to give you a little plot thing, she forgets her address book at the cleaners because she's running around trying to get all the clothes clean because Catherine's coming back from the ski trip, you know? But then she also forgets her book again, and that's how Catherine gets it. And you go, as an audience, I'm reminded that's
not a forced plot point. That's something she does.
Right.
Exactly. And, because if she'd only done it that one time, it would have felt pretty contrived, especially right at the end. Like, really, this is the thing she's going to forget? But we know she forgets that kind of stuff.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, I was going back to your point, but there was something else that occurred, more than once that was just like, is what makes the plot machinations of this just work.
Yeah.
Oh, the thing at the end, obviously, Sigourney Weaver, the guy that's going to buy the radio station, the head honcho, Jack Trainer and Melanie Griffith, they give their presentation to him. It's sold. It's done before Sigourney Weaver comes back in to say, hold it. But what's interesting is that the guy that they sold it to, there's all this business, blah, blah, blah in the movie, which it does a really good job of not making us need to know what they're talking about. Really. We understand, this is how it works. When the guy says to Sigourney Weaver, because you're like, okay, this plot could go either way at this point. And when he says to her and he goes, how'd you get the idea? You realize that guy has definitely spent 50 years in the telecommunications industry. Yep. And he's worked with a lot of people. And you also realize for the first time, but it now adds up to a lot of stuff she'd said before, that Sigourney Weaver has cheated some of her way to the top.
Probably,
relationships with people, and she obviously was hoping for that sort of relationship, with Jack Trainer, but it's like, it's kind of interesting. It brings it full circle without hammering it over the head. You're like, oh, she's kind of skipped a few steps to get her way up, and Melanie Griffith hasn't. She studied.
But you would argue again, though, how did she get her shot? Melanie Griffith did get her shot through duplicity, but the difference is that she was able to do the work.
Yeah,
and that because again, the opportunities were denied her unfairly. And I'm sure they were denied to Sigourney Weaver unfairly as well. But Sigourney Weaver apparently got her way up through purely underhanded means, whereas Melanie Griffith got her way through the power of her ideas and only was underhanded in order to get those ideas seen.
And that's what that's
not the same thing.
And when the guy says, "How did you get this idea?" It brings all of that together. It's a victory for numerous plot threads with just a simple question to her. It's really impressive.
Yeah, it's really
good. Now get your, what was you called it? Bony ass. Yeah. Your bony ass out of my sight. Philip Bosco, also a good steal if you can get him as your character actor in the 80s.
Yeah.
A couple quick other things to point out. AFI's 100 Years, 100 Heroes and Villains. Tess and Catherine both nominated in that. Let the River Run hit the 100 Years, 100 Songs. And I Have a Head for Business and a Bod for Sin made the 100 Years, 100 Movie quotes. But let's go to the Harrison Ford definitive list of essentials. Righteous anger. Does he have righteous anger in this movie like he often does? He has to show that off, really, according to plot.
No, he shows righteous indignation, and he is willing to sabotage his own career in order to do the right thing right at the end. But I wouldn't say it's righteous anger.
It's not on a Ford level. It's just it's within the plot mechanics and played at a much lower level. You expect he could be, but it never does. Never does.
It's not at an end of witness. Enough.
No.
You switch the samples.
Right. Well, here, I pulled a couple clips. Let me just drop this one in here because I think this one fits. Because we referenced it earlier when they're walking down the street eating gyros. This, unlike Harrison Ford at this phase is playing a very different Harrison Ford than he has. Witness, big choice. Mosquito Coast, big choice. Working Girl, big choice. This is a food on his mouth role.
Oh, right.
Harrison Ford has never had food on his mouth in a movie before. He is a food nation here.
Are you trying to fly this thing without me?
No. Wouldn't do that.
You're going to set up this meeting without me. What does that say? What the hell kind of a way to do business is this?
Would you calm down?
How am I supposed to calm down?
One lost deal is all it takes to get canned these days.
Now the big line quoted in college. How am I supposed to calm down? I say that all the time.
Calm down. But he's just so humanizing, leaving that food on his lip, and talking with his mouth full. It's just a very different Harrison Ford.
And it's important to remember that on a movie of this scale, that was someone's job to put that piece of food on his face. Probably because in one take that Mike Nichols printed, he had it, and then they were like, "Well, now we're stuck with that for the next half day of shooting."
He's like, "Oh no, keep it." Yeah. I thought that was nice.
I didn't keep track of points on this one, but I know there was one point of sorts. Harrison Ford pointing. I was big with that. You got 4.
There are 4 points.
With and what is it? Liz or Bitsy? Bitsy.
Yes, it was Bitsy.
The wedding.
5 then.
Yeah.
Oh, snap.
5 then. I didn't count Bitsy. Here's the 2, and I think there's 2 points in each of these scenes. The one is, and we haven't talked about the wedding yet. There's a lot of great shots at the wedding here. And the wedding is one of those classic things of like the working girl has like an idea on how to get a leg up in this thing. And she's got a great idea that the people at the top could never think of. Like, well, let's go to the wedding. Nobody knows people at a wedding. Everyone will assume we're family, and we'll
especially a wedding that size. Yeah.
Well, here's the. Well, of course, there's this at the wedding which we love. It's just Mike Nichols keeping the shot. He just knows how to make it a oneer and get the laugh. Nice face.
It's like if he just slammed a shot of bourbon, but all he's got is like a tiki cocktail, and it's just hilarious.
Right. Everything happens twice. So he shoots when he meets her initially, he shoots the tequila. He's a drinker. We know that. But now they're at a place where the drinks are these tall, things. And in order, you can't shoot him. So he has to drink the whole thing with the straw. Yeah. Very, very cute. But then they go into the bathroom, and this is where he realizes that. And this movie does this all over the place. He doesn't realize that she doesn't know anybody at the wedding. What I mean? Like there's constantly like, wait a second, are you pulling one over? This one with 2 points.
Who are you?
No. That's the punchline to this.
You can do it. I believe in you.
Yeah.
It's when he walks in on her and it's like, wait a minute. Like, yeah.
Yeah. I must not have pulled that one. This is the punchline to it. I do love this
Who
one.
are you? I'm Tess. I'm a friend of Mark's. I'm just so happy that I could be here for you today.
Glorious, fabulous, stunning, really, super, elegant, perfect.
Didn't wash his hands.
Puts his finger in his mouth.
Took a real long time to go to the bathroom too. Like giving Tom Hanks and League of Their Own a run for his money.
Here's the 2 points in that.
Who are you?
Nope, I guess I just pulled that one.
Where are they? I think is the real question. But yeah, no, I believe it. There's points. There's points aplenty.
And smile and charm. I mean, I think the biggest smile and charm comes with maybe I just don't like you. Me? Nah. Cut the
Here
elevator.
it is. Yeah, here's
Oh, you got it? All right.
Dinner, maybe. Dinner.
Yeah.
Dinner, maybe a movie.
We both know what we're talking about.
I certainly hope so.
Maybe I just don't like you.
Me? Nah.
Very cute.
She's charmed.
Yeah.
She's charmed.
And throughout, he's
Absolutely.
charming like this. He mentioned the
That was
scene where he
wonderful.
changes his shirt in front of all the coworkers. But he doesn't hit a guy. So obviously, romantic comedy, it's very different. Leaving our
There's no guy to who'd he hit?
There's no guy to hit. Yeah.
I mean, if he met Alec Baldwin, maybe, but they never have a scene together.
That leaves our career total in 22 movies holding at 70 for Harrison Ford punching someone in a film. That's
This
it.
is the first movie he hasn't punched someone in a long time, right?
No, he didn't punch anyone in Frantic. Oh, he punched twice in Frantic.
Yeah.
He didn't punch in Mosquito Coast.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'm sorry, that's 72. I should probably re-record that. So that leaves us with 72. He's holding at 72 punches through 22 movies.
Yeah, and I'm keeping track of Sigourney Weaver's stuff, but I did interview Sigourney Weaver once for the movie Chappie.
Yeah?
And in Chappie, she also plays a very underhanded, duplicitous sort of corporation person, a person who has an office kind of vibe. I don't know. But I interviewed her and I said my headcanon for this movie is that Catherine from Working Girl got a job at this South African robotics firm and had to change her name because of all the scandal. And so here you are. And she thought that was great. So as far as I'm concerned, Chappie is the spin-off of Working Girl.
I was when I saw all the electronics and radio conversation, I was like, "Oh, this is this could easily be Linus Larrabee with the telecommunications and the electronics as he got more and more of a champion." This gave him a foothold. Then he started inventing TVs, blah blah blah, and that's where he ends up in Sabrina beating a TV with a hammer for like 4 minutes.
I haven't seen the remake of Sabrina since like it came out.
Same here.
It's been so long. I love the original though, so I hope you guys have fun with that. That's gonna be cool.
Now we're 6 movies away or so.
Yeah,
yeah,
not that far.
Just crazy.
And that's it, because Adam, I don't have any funny punchline for us to go out on. We'll record that when we record the thing. But other than that, I'll say thank you to William Bibiani.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you for having me once again.
Lively as always. Wonderful observations.
Bring in the minutia too. Yeah, lots of.
I tried.
Lots of points that were off the beaten path, and totally
that's why they pay me the no bucks.
Well, we did that here today.
Well, everybody subscribe to critically acclaimed on Patreon because you get 4 shows a week. I think you guys work.
We
your
do quite a
asses
few
off
shows
over there. Yeah.
We have a Star Trek podcast where we review every single episode of Star Trek, and we are about halfway through the Next Generation, which means we've done the entire original series, the animated series, and the first 5 movies. So that's like about 150 episodes or so right there. And then we have our Oscars podcast where we review every single film ever nominated for Best Picture. And we just started doing one because we're going in chronological order. We just started doing the Academy Award for Best International Feature as well. Wow. So that's a separate podcast. We have a podcast dedicated to all the Step Up movies.
Yes.
We have We just did one about the Step Up workout videos, so that's online. We just posted that as of recording this yesterday.
When you did League of Extraordinary Dancers, which more people should discover.
That's a weird thing.
I had no idea that was connected to
tangentially, but it is, and I love it.
Creators,
we got that. We have a whole bunch of stuff in our backlog as well. We reviewed every single episode of the Adam West Batman TV series. We're talking about adding a podcast in which for our Patreon where we review every single Godzilla movie at some point in the near future. So stick around. We'll get to that at some point soon. And we do commentary tracks. We just did a commentary track for the January classic Monster Trucks, the movie in which the monsters are trucks. Or the trucks are monsters, depending on how you look at it.
Titled movie.
Say what you will. Accurately titled.
What if monsters were trucks? No. What if trucks were monsters? I think we can come together and create a movie.
And we also do Discord hangouts and trivia nights as well. So thank you to everyone who might want to check that out. And of course, even if you can't afford that, we are on various podcasting networks. You can find us on Spotify and Apple, and all those good places.
I have started my re-listen of your I never fully completed but I got for Christmas the Batman TV show.
Nice.
The greatest piece of pop culture ever minted, in my opinion.
I agree.
I've started re-listening.
That was a trip, man. I'd never seen every single one. And when you go back and rewatch that series, they're astounding, and there's so many weird ins and outs there to discover, and so many what ifs, like if they had continued, they wanted to get Clint Eastwood to play Two-Face.
You mentioned that.
That would have been amazing. Oh my god!
What an alternate timeline! On an alternate timeline, he's Two-Face.
Yeah, I know. Would have been cool. Oh well. Anyway, but yeah, thank you, Adam. I really appreciate your support.
Sure thing.
Yeah, and of course, if you want to sign up for Soap of the Month Club, head on over to patreon.com/saltcatsoap. We are just about to start making soap for our February distribution, so it should be exciting.
All right.
Excellent. And we don't have a whole lot of time. Well, we'll record our show outro when we record.
We'll just record it then.
And we don't have a whole lot of time for anything else because we talked for a long time. And
sorry,
who's surprised about that? Nobody.
No.
Thank you to everyone who left a comment. I wish we could have read them.
Yes, I will zip back through those as quick as possible.
Okay.
If you got to go, Bibbs, I get it.
I can stay. I can stay for a few.
My money's on Adam's wonderfully consistent internet as to why the show's kicking off a little late. That's just a guy paying attention.
That'd be from the very
top. This was funny. There was some hi, I want to actually offer you promotion on your channel. It's total spam. But Chica Bateman?
What?
I don't know.
Ooh.
Is that what? Maybe. Oh no, Bateman's got a whole new enterprise.
Oh,
that's Ben Bateman probably trying to come back with some kind of vengeance.
Yeah, he's gone full Chica.
There you go.
Let's see. That did want to ask this. Movie trivia genius William the Beast Bibbiani. Are you the Beast at critically acclaimed? You're not, are you? Or are you?
I will never tell someone they can't call me the Beast.
Okay. There you go.
You're more than welcome to call me the Beast. That was a fun time in my life, but it's years I can tell it's over now. So that's basically that. So you can call me the Beast. You can call me Bibbs. Just call me on time for dinner because I'm very hungry.
Hey-o. I agree, Bibbs. Dabney. It's funny that Dabney Coleman should come up because I'm watching Yellowstone. Oh. I've never seen it, but I started watching.
Is he
I just finished
in that?
He shows up at the end of season 2, which I just watched. In flashback episodes as Cosmic.
Oh my god! Dad. I can't remember the last time I saw him in it.
I know.
I gotta say, Boardwalk Empire is the last time I saw him.
Oh, was he in that too? And then I never watched most of that. Okay, cool. Wow. But, okay, awesome.
Yeah, so it was good to see him in that. This is an interesting comment from Jennifer. Seeing her dream was to be boss in a small window in a giant gray building among other giant gray buildings, pulling out to show how significant it all really is. Then again, maybe it's me. Like that. Oh, that's a follow-up to the fact that the end kind of depressed her.
You know what? That's not wrong, honestly, because if you think about it, what have they done? Like, if you ask yourself a question about Working Girl, okay, so she got this deal off the ground. She got her job. What did they do? They helped a big corporation buy a network of radio. They helped corporations take over the media.
Yeah.
So if you think about it, there is really a cynical way of looking at this, which is people trying to succeed and make their lives really, really awesome. But in surface of what they do, they go out of their way not to talk corporations are doing for 95% of this movie. And the only thing we really know about the deal is that and you don't have to know business to figure it out. They wanted to buy TV. Radio is a pretty good silver medal, and it keeps them from being taken over by another company. So it just sounds clever. But in actuality, yeah, it is kind of sinister. And honestly, the Reagan 80s still have a lot to answer for. So yeah, looking at this in a somewhat melancholic fashion, that's a valid interpretation.
Yeah, that's a really good observation. Yeah. But when they were doing business, talking business stuff, they might as well have just been saying the word business, though, for all this movie cared about it. You know, business.
All you need to know is that all you need to know is that they have to make a deal. They have to get people into a boardroom to make that deal, and that Melanie Griffith did something clever. And it needs to be clever in a way that the audience can understand. Yeah. And I think that's the bare bones that they did.
And it does that.
It works. It does the trick.
Yeah, it does the trick.
They don't want you to think about it. They don't want this to be margin.
It's not about that, really.
Yeah. Speaking of another Kevin Spacey movie, but yeah.
Ileana Douglas may feel a little offended by our Melvin Douglas conversation. This is the first time I'm learning that they're related.
I did not know that.
They are related. And listen, I'm sorry, Melvin Douglas fans, and I'm sorry, Ileana Douglas.
Sorry, we didn't.
It was incredibly. I love Ileana Douglas to pieces, incredible actor. And again, maybe I just haven't seen the right Melvin Douglas movies. He was very prolific, so I've probably only seen a pretty small fraction of his films, but I've seen some of the big ones.
And from Roach Smythe's comments, we know that he's certainly not condemning in that comment. Stirring the pot, probably. All right. Kokomo was nominated for the Grammy Award for Best Song Written Specifically for a Motion Picture, but lost to Phil Collins' Two Hearts. Now, how can that be if the working thought Let the River won? Let the River Run won. I got to research all this stuff.
She might have won. She might have won because there's multiple Grammys. He might have won like for best soundtrack or something like that.
Or comedy versus. Did they split those?
You know what? That's actually a good question. I'm gonna look this up right now. Curly Simon, Working Girl, Grammy.
And while you do. I will show a clip that I wanted to show earlier because this is such a great Mike Nichols moment, and this is a directed moment, and this is when I really wish I had been in a theater to hear the laugh, because I laughed very loudly in my living room by myself, having seen this movie before years ago, when she gets asked for coffee when she sits down in the meeting.
Gentlemen, Tess McGill.
Okay. Miss McGill, I'm Jack Traynor. How are you? This is John Romano and Bernie Kotarka. Hello. Sit down, please. Coffee?
Milk or sugar?
Yes, both. Thank you.
Perfect timing. I have an answer to the Grammy question, and it's way simpler than we were thinking. The Grammys aren't released per calendar year. They're actually they come out like kind of like in the middle, like the actual like eligibility period's a little different. So Phil Collins won a Grammy for Best Song from a Movie for the movie everyone remembers, of course, Buster.
The Master Thief.
Yeah, and he beat out Kokomo. He beat out for that award in 1989. But then the next year, because Working Girl came out later in the calendar year, Carly Simon's "Let the River Run" beat out actually some pretty good songs. Randy Newman's "I Love to See You Smile" from Parenthood, but also "Party Man" from Batman by Prince. So that was a pretty competitive year, regardless. So there you go.
I Love to See You Smile is a great song.
Very great song.
There you go, Jesse Swift. Have to take this moment to say Bibbs.
Thank you, Jesse.
I miss you too, Jesse. I miss a lot of the Schmodown people. It's that's what I miss the most, was having an excuse to hang out with so many wonderful folks so often. That part was great.
Yeah, so, I think we need to start organizing a monthly meetup where just
I'd love
whoever's available. Yeah,
we want to do bowling. We're working on that.
I could work with that as long as it's free. I'm very poor.
The Power of One, Cam Chef chiming in. That's her favorite Stephen Dorff, I think.
That's good. I don't think I've seen The Power of One, actually.
I don't remember that movie.
Shoot.
I know of it. Haven't seen it. Yeah.
Okay.
She's got us on that.
I think I had it confused for a long time with The First Power, which came out actually, I think not.
Oh yeah, Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah. I mean, it's a similar title, right? So I think I just had them confused. Okay.
And I think that's all the comments. I mean, there's of course, thanks, Bibbs.
Oh, you're welcome.
So much love. Oh, Kieran Lagabiru to you.
Yeah. Wash your hands. All the important stuff. But that being said, I got to go to a movie. We went a little late. I'm going to go see Women Talking. I haven't seen it.
Oh, great movie. Great movie. I hope you enjoy it. Yeah.
So enjoy your movie.
Yeah. We're excited. All right. And in production, in the production talk, Bibbs, just go ahead and send us that audio. If you don't have our emails, we'll let us know. Send it to you on Twitter, and we'll put this whole sumbitch together into a big, beautiful working girl episode. And I love hearing you say that you love and enjoy the show.
Thank you,
Bibbs. And it's for that reason I feel bad. It's been a while, so we'll try and crank out Temple of Doom, Witness, and Mosquito Coaster. Boom, boom, boom. They're all in the can. So
I hear it.
Those are all in the can.
Yeah.
As is Mara Kanopic's interview, so all we have to do is the script for that. So
if you want to have me back, if you need someone to come on for like some crappy movie nobody likes, like Hollywood Homicide or something, you can always reach out. Okay, I haven't even seen that one, so that'd be fun.
Yeah.
We ended up doing, I think, Temple of Doom by ourselves. No one chimed in. I'm like, what?
I would have done Temple of Doom. I love it.
We could have reached.
I love talking about that movie. I don't know if I love that movie the way I used to. I think I've grown up a little too much for that film, but I love talking about it.
There's plenty of
no other movie like
over and Firewall out there if you want another call.
Ooh, and then maybe Morning Glory.
I love Morning Glory.
I actually really like Morning Glory. I think
good.
It's really cute.
It's good, and he's well used in it too.
He is. He's well cast.
I think you got to fight Peggy Gubbins for that one. But,
that's fair. Peggy can have it. That's fair. All right, I've been blessed already. All right, but thank you guys very much.
All right,
Thanks,
farewell,
Bibbs.
sir, and I guess farewell to everybody. Right, we'll just wrap this show. I wanted to talk a little about. It's such a good clip. I wanted to talk a little about watching 1923, and Timothy Dalton finally showed up, so that's fun. And here they are in the red carpet. If it plays, these clips have not been playing. Let me try again.
Harrison Ford, we're so excited that you are on television in a Western. What made you want to do this?
The thought that, hey.
Timothy Dalton.
A lot to say.
You guys met?
Yeah, we have. Excuse me, I'm doing an interview.
Me too. Trouble?
Don't butt in. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Sorry.
I feel like there's going to be trouble in the Prohibition tonight.
There ain't no prohibition tonight, baby.
I don't know what he's doing. I don't know what he's doing, but it's his first TV show, so everyone should be watching it. It's
his first successful TV show. He was in a failed pilot in the 70s.
I'm sorry, first lead. Oh, failed pilot. Okay, yeah, his first lead because he's had pleny of stuff in the past where he was in that like things like that. But
yeah,
he was in that like supernatural thriller pilot that turned into like a backdoor like TV movie. I forget what it was called off the top of my head.
Yeah. That's I know that one. I know which one you're talking about there.
Came out around the same time as Star Wars too, but anyway,
same year I believe. Yeah. What the hell was that called?
I don't know.
He wanted to cover his TV stuff at one time, but
that's
it has like
you got to cut off some.
Yeah.
Hold on. Harrison Ford filmography. I got this.
The same name as another horror movie. It's like named the same as.
It does actually.
Possession.
Oh, that's The Possessed.
The Possessed.
1977, starring James Ferrantino and Harrison Ford. Yeah,
we've shown clips from that. Is that where he's the teacher?
Yeah. And it begins just like Raiders, where it's a chalkboard and it's the exact same handwriting, and he's saying a term and then turns to the class. So you're like, oh, this is literally the same intro as in Raiders, the classroom, but he's talking about spiders instead in this one.
Spielberg saw it, ripped it off, just bald faced. Unashamedly
he just wanted a lot of that sweet The Possessed feel and vibe in Raiders.
As all of Hollywood was
which if you wanted to do that, just catch Harrison Ford's feet on fire, have him run around going because I think that's how he dies in that.
All right, got to scoot. Thanks for everybody for tuning in, and we appreciate you chiming in on everything we're talking about. And again, we'll be back next week. And Adam, we should probably do the second half of Frantic. Would that be next? I'm sorry, the first half, the second part of it that we haven't done yet.
Yeah, I think how it's going to go is next week we'll do the Frantic script and the Working Girl script. I think it would make a nice show. And the week after that, we'll do the Last Crusade script and show clips of our interview with Mara, who we did. Mara Kanopik will be our guest on that.
Nice.
Look at us burning through the decade.
Back on the show and just hang out with Mara, which is fun too.
Then we finally get to Presumed Innocent, which I'm excited because Adam has not seen. We're going to get together for that one.
I don't know the ending.
Well, I presume he's innocent.
That's my presumption as well, because I'm a Harrison Ford fan. And this is the Ford Fiesta.